What's going on, guys? It's Perna here, and today we're going to talk about bad habits that you might want to stop doing. Now, a lot of people talk about good habits. It's kind of all the rage, and there's a few issues with only talking about good habits. One, the main one is that it can be unrealistic because everyone knows what the good habits should be, but whether or not you're going to fucking do it or not is another story. But bad habits and knowing which ones you should probably stay away from, I think could be quite helpful. Now, I've made a lot of mistakes. I've made a lot of bad habits. I definitely don't have my shit all sorted and figured out, but I have gone through a lot in like my 20s, and there are a lot of things that I wish I could go back and do differently, and especially talking about building better habits. So if you want to explore videos on building good habits, I have heaps of those, but today we're going to talk about bad ones. So here are things you should stop doing. Habit you should stop, number one, stop looking for cheap dopamine. Now this can be in the form of porn, this could be drugs, alcohol, anything for quick validation, video games, gambling, anything like that for cheap dopamine is not ideal because it is changing the way your brain is functioning. It's getting your brain used to a certain level of dopamine, and it can also potentially leave you kind of struggling for a regular baseline dopamine. So I try and stay away from those things as much as possible. Guys, that they're going, wait, what did he say about that first one? But that's another story altogether that has strange ramifications. Let's just talk in terms of baseline dopamine. These things, if you avoid doing these things a lot of the time, you will be far better off for it. You might not notice it immediately, but you will be better off in the long run. And I know this because when I switched out some of those things, or whatever that may be, for better practices like a cold exposure that will give you immediate dopamine, and exercise that gives you dopamine but it's long lasting, those ones I don't think are cheap dopamine. So I think that makes sense, right? Like it kind of makes sense. But doing things that require a little bit more effort and work and you get rewarded after that, those are the things that I would replace it with. And I think everybody knows that you feel better after those. Second habit I'd like you to stop doing is stop eating whatever you want, whenever you want. Now this is not just about food and calories. This is like an overall metaphor for practicing delayed gratification, because I think when people kind of go through life and just going from one temptation to the other and just instantly, yep, like no willpower alone, they don't practice any delayed gratification. Now, obviously delayed gratification is just waiting, delaying the rewards of something, and then later you'll get that. You'll be gratified with the rewards. And I think if you can practice this skill of delayed gratification, it will be one of the best things you can ever do, because you can work on yourself and things in the meantime and let that pay off later. It's like when I first started content creation, I posted for such a long time without many views, without many comments or likes or followers, and I just kept going. And if I had known that it would take me like 3 years of doing that before I did anything proper with it, I probably wouldn't have done it, because it would have been like, what, 3 years? That's crazy. But I'm so glad that I did, and I'm so glad that I had the mindset of just keep going, Zach, because it's going to be another week, it's going to be another day, another video, then it'll blow up. That's like what I kept telling myself. When I started YouTube, I was like, just could be the next video, it could be this video, and I still do that now. I still go, this video could be the one that is, makes the most impact or gets heaps of views. I always do that. And I think it's important to do that, because then I don't get discouraged when it doesn't. Like if this is flopping right now, I don't get discouraged at all. I go, okay, what can I do different? How can I change it? Let's do more. So I think practicing delayed gratification is key. And the reason why I bring that back to eating food is because I see so many people who just go, oh, I feel like that, I'm just gonna eat that now. They walk past a muffin, they go, oh, I'm gonna have that muffin, that looks pretty tasty. And I think that through controlling my willpower and restraint, because through dieting, you're literally confronted by temptation 24/7. And I think having a sense of willpower and delayed gratification, that you're committing to a larger goal and that you're not submitting to temptation, I think is really powerful in not only whatever goal you're trying to accomplish, but just your overall mentality. So for the people who just go from skipping the gym to then eating whatever they want and just kind of going through life, I genuinely believe they will feel less purpose, because you will feel more like a useless human being. Number 3, stop wasting time. I mean, the amount of people that just waste time, especially at night, I find is like the hours from like 8 until 1 in the morning, they will just waste time. You're scrolling on Instagram, you're doing things that are just not good for you. You're watching TV or binge watching Netflix for hours on end and just wasting time. Like, they are valuable hours that you could be contributing to something else. And I think even in just the form of like relaxation, because I personally watch Netflix or whatever show every night. I watch it every night for maybe an hour, but I don't go there for 4 hours. And then I also have a proper bedtime routine. So instead of me just wasting time until I get that tired that I have to, my eyes are bleeding and I go into bed at 2 in the morning and wake up at 7 and I'm miserable, I have a proper structured routine that allows me to actually feel good in the morning. So I found when people waste time, particularly in the evenings, they don't have a proper evening routine. They're not looking after themselves. They're not looking after their sleep and prioritizing their rest. And as a result, they feel tired and horrible the next day and moody and more depressed. And then they struggle to then form that routine and get into bed early and feel good again the next day. It's like a cycle. So if you're currently watching this going, I don't really have an evening routine, like I just kind of crawl into bed when I'm tired, maybe consider getting one. Maybe consider just trying something to switch off, get to bed early, prioritize your sleep, and look after your mental health. And speaking of looking after yourself, this video is sponsored by Tiege Hanley. So I want to give a quick plug to them. Tiege Hanley is probably the best skincare company I've ever used before. They make skincare really, really easy, and the results are awesome. I've been using them for probably the last 3 months now, and results have been sick. I had the easiest routine ever. I literally, every morning I do this, and every night I wash my face with a face wash. Every 2 days I'll use the scrub as well, little exfoliator. Then after that I'll put the serum on. This increases nutrient uptake to the skin, and then also followed by the moisturizer. In the mornings, I use the AM, evenings, I use the PM. Occasionally, I'll also use the eye cream there, but that's kind of like a little added extra. Amazing company. I've had a lot of people also really happy with it since my recommendation. So if you want to try them, use this link here to get 30% off your first box plus a free gift. Now, next habit I'd love you to stop is having a limited mindset. I see a lot of people struggle with this, and I definitely struggle with it myself. A lot of people feel like they're not capable of big things or of growing. And I think you need to believe that you can learn things. You need to believe that you're capable. I couldn't think of anything worse than designing and creating my own clothing because I didn't know anything about it. I thought, I'm never gonna learn that. I can never learn, that's crazy. 2 years ago, I started Slash Potato Pajamas with my brother. Thankfully, I had Joel because we both didn't know anything. And so we're like, oh, well, let's just see how this goes. We threw ourselves in, and I took it one step at a time. And I went, you know, I can actually learn a bit about that. I can learn how it's made. And we get so far into it that you just take it one small step at a time. And then at some point I realized, shit, I can learn this. I can learn anything. Like I can learn how to run ads. I can, all of these things now. And where I am in my position right now, if I can leave you with one bit of advice, is that if you can convince yourself that you are capable of learning things, you will go very, very far. And the only other thing you'll need to add to that is just be willing to work. So if you are willing to work and you are capable and you are willing to learn, you can do whatever you want essentially because you are endless. If you're not gonna give up and you're just gonna keep learning, it's insane. Not a lot of people focus on themselves and they had this limiting mindset, which is far too common because that limiting mindset is also facilitated by those around you. You might come from a really good family and your family might be really worried about you and they might say, or friends, and they might say, that sounds a bit scary. That dream you just told me sounds a bit scary. Maybe don't do that. Or maybe have you considered all this and that? And you'll have these people around you that literally just spit negativity. And it doesn't help you because if you've got bigger goals and aspirations for yourself and what you want to do with your life, and you have people who are scared going, oh, maybe don't do that. Oh, I wouldn't do that. Have you checked? There's like people who just kind of, they're in your corner, but they're not because they're looking out for you, but it comes across as negative. I think you need to ignore those people, even though they probably have your best interest at heart. They are contributing to your limiting mindset. So you need to think really big for yourself and think, okay, what is a really big goal I have? What would be amazing for me to hit this goal? And now actually consider the fact that you have what it takes to learn to get there, to learn the skills, to get to that position, to become that person who you are envisioning. If you believe that you're capable of a lot of these things and you're willing to work, like I said, you can do anything. The final habit I would recommend you stop is stop living someone else's dream. Now this goes both ways. This goes one for the people who are working for someone else and you're putting all of your time and effort into your job and instead of yourself because you're scared. That is a bit of a nightmare. For me, I figured this out the hard way and I was putting so much work into something else that wasn't my own. And I went, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I'm scared. Like that's what it is. It's that security of you not actually figuring it out. So you need to back yourself in. So if you're working really, really hard in your career now and you're happy, then great. Like please don't change anything. Don't feel like you're doing anything wrong or I'm judging whatever. But if you're working super, super hard and you're not quite happy, then maybe consider working for yourself and putting that effort into your own, knowledge and skill set. It might not be like going out in your own business, but it might be applying and redirecting that effort you're giving to someone else's dream into your own life. Because the reality is that no one is gonna build this dream for you. No one is actually gonna pluck you out and go, you know what, you're lucky, I want you to do really well. Like the sooner you figure that out, the better. You have to do this for yourself. You have to back yourself in because no one else will. Even if you think you've got a really good support network, no one's gonna do anything for you. And the sooner you guys realize that, the better. I'm realizing that all the time. I haven't just realized I'm like, oh, you guys fucking suck. I realize that all the time because I'll want certain things and then I'll wait for someone else to make it happen. And then I have to catch myself and go, Zach, no one's gonna make this happen for you. You gotta go get this shit by yourself. Like no one's gonna put in that work for you. You have to go get it. And if you don't, they're happily letting you work for them. Like someone else is gonna love me working for him and making his dream a reality, but no one's gonna do that for me. So you guys have to do that for yourself. You have to think, what do I want out of life? Do I want to build someone else's dream or do I want to build my own dream? And if you want to build your own dream, you have to back yourself in. And on the other hand, is don't live to please someone else. So if you're currently right now doing things that you don't want to do. Maybe you're studying, you're in a career that you don't want to do, you're doing this all for the approval of someone else or for validation or for whatever reasons, I would just strongly recommend you to reconsider all those things, because living a life for someone else is not really a good life to live, in my opinion. And I would just highly recommend, for your own happiness and just like, self-actualization of growing as a person, just go out and do this shit for yourself. Like, figure out what it is that you want and then go out and get that. So I hope these kind of habits to stop doing helped a little bit, maybe get a little bit of insight, or I don't know, made you think a little bit. It'd be great if you could comment below. Any questions you're struggling with or something you just want an opinion on would be great, and I can cover them in another video, or I can reply to them in the comments. But yeah, that is it from me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and got a jaws light in the back. Pretty cool.